Okay, we're going to continue with the eighth parak of Sefer Yehoshua. Yesterday we began, last session rather, and we took a look at the first pasuk. So now we're going to continue over here. Pasuk says that Hashem told Yehoshua, "Don't be afraid, don't be fearful. Take the nation, and you go. You fight Ai. This time you'll be successful, unlike regarding the first battle." Pasuk Beis continues and says, "V'asisa la'ai ulamalka." This is Hashem talking to Yehoshua still. And you should do to Ai and its king, kasher asisa liyericho, like what you did to Yericho ulamalka and its king. Rak shalalu behemasa tavus lachem. But its spoils you may take. Sim lacha oiriv, set an ambush li'ir machareya, from the city from the back. The basic idea why they're allowed to take from the spoils is because they earned it. They didn't miraculously conquer Ai. Pasuk then continues, the next pasuk, and says, Vayakim Yehoshua v'kol ha'am milchama la'lo Ai. Yehoshua and the entire nation went up to war to fight Ai. V'yivcha Yehoshua shloshim elef ish gibori hachayil v'yishalchim laila. Yehoshua chose 30,000 people, very strong people. So we would call it in English like an elite unit. V'yishalchim laila, and he sent them off at night. Okay. These are relatively straightforward, so we're just gonna keep moving over here. But Pasuk says, "Vayitzav v'yisam lemor." Now we're going to Dalet. And Yehoshua commanded them, saying, "Ru'u atem oirvim li'ir ma'achrei ha'yir al tefechu min ha'ir ma'od." You're going to ambush the city, and don't distance yourself too far from the city. V'hayisim kulchem nechonim. You should be ready. In other words, there's a sweet spot. You don't want to be too far away that you won't be able to get in the city, but you don't want to be too close that they're going to notice you. It has to be a sweet spot. Next pasuk says, "Va'ani v'kol ha'am asher iti nikra v'ha'ir v'ha'aki yetu likra asenu kasher b'rishoina v'nosnu lifneim." And me and the entire nation, we're going to be with you. We're going to come close to the city. We're going to draw the inhabitants of Ai, rather the military, the people who are fighting, the warriors out of Ai, to come to us. And when they come to greet us, kasher b'rishona, like the first battle, which we lost, v'nosnu lifneim. Nosnu lifneim. That means that we're gonna run away from before them. Actually, this is a difficult word. That's why the Metzudas David, who is our good friend over here in our dictionary, says Melashon Nisa Ubericha. This comes from the language of fleeing and running. So you were saying you do an ambush, then we're gonna run. We're gonna run out in front of them, Vayetzu Acharenu, and they're gonna follow us. Ad Hatikenu. Oisam min ha'ir, until we basically draw them from the city. Kiyomer, because they're gonna say Nasinu lifneinu. Let's actually just do the Mesudus on the word. Inyan hatakav as to remove. They're going to come to us until they're already removed from the city, until we drew them out of the city. Kiomer, because they're going to say, Nosim lifneinu kasher b'rishoina. Oh, they're running in front of us just like the first time. Benasu lifneihem, benasu lifneihem. And then what's going to happen? We're gonna run before them. We're gonna run before them. That was the basic plan. And the next pasuk says, "V'haya." Pasuk ches. Ketavshechem esayir, when you're going to seize the city, tatsisu esayir ba'ish, you should set it on fire. Kedavar Hashem tasu, like the word of Hashem, you shall do. Re'u tzivesi eschem, and look at what I commanded you. That's Yehoshua talking. And that is the end of Yehoshua's instructions. And then the next psukim, they are going to try to actually do that. That's what's going to happen. Just focus on one specific point in Pasuk Daled. Talks about over here, you should ambush them from behind. Right? So, just an interesting idea. There's a few reasons to go with the ambush. Main idea is that they're going to turn back the people of Ai, and they're going to see that their city's in flames, the warriors, the people who were in their army. They're going to see that it's totally getting burnt. Then they're going to be demoralized from that. And they're not going to keep fighting. This is brought in the Lilmod Lamed, famous parable about two kings whose the armies were in continuous battles. It kind of reminds me of Ukraine and Russia. And neither side was able to be victorious. Finally, one of the generals had a plan that he was going to succeed. He discovered the other army's arsenal, and he sent a platoon of men to secretly take it over. When the fighting resumed on the battlefield, the enemy seemed to be winning and preparing for success, unaware that the arsenal was already completely overrun. During the battle, when they sent soldiers to the arsenal to rearm, they discovered the horror was completely empty. They lost their will to fight and surrenders. That's how you know the war is over, when the weapons are put down. Chafetz Chaim used this analogy to explain the importance of learning Torah in a Jew's life. The Torah is our best weapon in our defense in battle. The time we put into learning and serving Hashem with all of our heart, that is considered our arsenal in the never-ending battle that we have when we wage war against our evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. We all have to realize that the Torah is our most important weapon. And as long as we have it in our arsenal, we could go into battle. But if we don't have Torah and mitzvahs, it's as if the arsenal is empty, and that would be a problem. Over here. When they originally established the state of Israel, there's a critical battle that was waged by the Torah giants and the leaders. Reminds me nowadays nothing's changed all the years later. Against them trying to draft people into the army. Students, people who are learning Torah. Several military officials came to Rav Dov Ber Weidenfeld, better known as the Tishbina Rebbe, and tried to explain the great danger that was confronting the young state. You know, they had enemies on all sides, and they're saying this has to get done. And they couldn't afford to exempt these people who were learning in yeshiva, learning Torah. They're capable young men from a military perspective, and they were ready to fight. So he didn't refute the official's argument outright. The Tishbina Rav them, let me tell you a story. There was a wagon that was overloaded with too much weight, and it started slipping on a steep incline, and the ascent was impossible. The horses, they didn't move. They halted. The driver got off and started tossing off one package after another, but nothing worked. They were stuck. Suddenly, in desperation, the wagon driver, the Balagullah, he removed the heavy iron wheels and said, "Oh, the wheels are heavy now. Now the wagon will be able to move." Comes the Tishbina Rebbe and says, "You two, in your desperation, you're removing the wheels that the entire wagon travels on. It's only in the merit of the people who are learning Torah that we're going to merit being in Jerusalem. How could you even dream of removing your own wheels?" Excellent answer, I must say myself. That's what Achaz tried to do, the wicked King Achaz. He realized the importance of learning Torah, and he attempted to stop all the learning and to get the Jews to worship idolatry. He would close down the yeshivas where people would learn Torah. Of Chia, Rav Ami, and Rav Asi, three great rabbis in the time of the Mishnah. They were once sent by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi to certain areas in Israel to see whether the inhabitants needed to be strengthened in learning Torah and observing mitzvahs. They came upon a town that had no teachers, no rabbis that were teaching Chumash, Mishnah, nothing. And they asked to speak to the guardians of the city. A group of the city's watchmen was sent to speak with them, with a delegation. And the rabbi said, "No, we need to speak with the guardians of the city. These aren't the guardians, these are the destroyers. Because they're only concerned with idle matters. The true guardians of the city are the scholars who are occupying themselves with learning Torah day and night. The rabbis who teach Torah to the children and the older ones." This is explicit in the Yerushalmi in the beginning of Tainus. According to our rabbis, the Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Yutes, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem was destroyed because they neglected educating children in Torah. People didn't take the time to learn Torah with their children. Another reason is that they had ill feelings towards one another. That just Gemara and Yuma. Sinas Chinam, baseless hatred, big problem. That's the strongest weapon. Good message. Continue next time.